It it was a good experience, I think, because it was a job that paid me money. I guess I had some decent experiences because you sort of get regulars that come in and turn over or roll over a loan every 2 weeks or every month, like clockwork. So you start to know them, you know their families, they know me. Some of them knew my father because they worked together. In the end, though, I think it was a bad experience because if you work for those types of places, you risk getting robbed because it's cash handling. I worked a lot of the time by myself in the store, and that included going to bank, making the bank drop, and if I needed change, I had to go get it, and I had to lock the store. It's kind of creepy.
Did you get robbed?
By yourself. I did not, but I quit because there was a series of robberies in the area, and actually one of my best friends got robbed twice.
Wow.
At gunpoint.
At the place that you worked at?
Not at that place I worked at, but at a different location in the same area. Yeah.
Doing the same payday lending
Same
service?
company, different location.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay. So you were talking about how people were rolling over their loans. So those became the regular customers that you established kind of a relationship with. Did you ever get the sense that they were angry about that? Those are some of the stories that we've been hearing, is that like people get caught up in the cycle, and that the cycle is, this negative thing. Hearing you talk about it, it's almost like, well, you established a relationship with these people, and that's almost like a positive thing. I'm just curious what your take on that was.
Yeah, I think it was positive because you do meet a lot of people that work for different companies, and I mean, they're coming in to get money from you. You're looking at their check stub. It could be used as a form of networking, like, oh, she makes this money. Where do you work? That type of thing. I guess the job was used it was a good networking gig, but a lot of the customers are upset because it's a slippery slope when you come in there. It only takes one time and you're hooked, because if you know the process, you go in with no money, we give you cash or a check, or it's on a prepaid card, and then you have to pay it back in 2 weeks or a month. Now, I don't know about any of you, but it's kind of hard to give someone $300, $400, $500, $600 and not need it back. So they roll over, and then it becomes this. It stops being a short-term emergency loan, and it becomes part of their income. They have to account for that. It becomes another bill that you have to pay for, and you're actually losing money because you have to pay the interest, which is really high because it's a short-term cash.
So did you feel like you were helping most of these people, or that it was a beneficial service, or was it more harmful?
It was beneficial, but it was also harmful. It was hard for some of the monthly customers who are usually older citizens who are on a fixed income. They're only getting Social Security, and that's hard for them to lose that kind of money and have to come back for it. A lot of them aren't in the physical condition enough to come to the store and pay it back. So that part was hard to watch. And there were some handicapped customers where you take a little bit more time. And, I had a blind customer once who would come in with her son. It's hard to see older customers with their family members, and family members get impatient. You just have to deal with that. Something else that was bad is there's a lot of scammers that come in. You have to always be on the lookout for that. It's easy to type up a check stub and say you have a job, and we got a lot of those. There's all sorts of rules you have to be aware of. The necessary requirements to even get a loan.
Such as?
Usually your loan is 20% of your gross monthly income. You have to be 18. You have to have a job making, I forget how much the monthly amount was, but you have to have a valid driver's license. You have to have 2 forms of ID, a bank statement with an open and active checking account, and a check stub. A lot of people will go to the bank and open up a bank account and say, oh, I got a bank account, and then they'll close it. By the
regulations by the state?
Or
Both. A lot of them are state regulated laws, and we had to take training modules to learn the collection practices in the state. And like I said, they're state specific. And some things you can do in Indiana, you can't do in Illinois. Some things you do in Indiana, you can't do in Ohio. So you just have to learn for each state. And we did get a lot of out-of-state customers because they knew the rules in a different state, which was another scam.
I've heard that, like, in Ohio, if you no longer qualify, they can say that, oh, but you can go to Kentucky and you get a loan there. Is that true? Can people do that?
I don't know if that's true, but if one cash advance place doesn't want to give you a loan, they will tell you where else to go. It's just sort of a sister center thing, like, oh well, you can't get it here, but let me show you where else you can lose all your money.
so, what were some common reasons that people came in for loans?
People will tell you, oh, I don't have any groceries, or my kids they need school supplies, but these are the people that drive Mercedes and they always have their hair done, they have the latest bag, and it becomes part of their supplemental income.
So you saw folks' paychecks, and was it all over the map? I mean, it wasn't just people weren't in a specific box. It was all over the map.
So an example of that is we had a wide range of customers. You have your monthly customers who are on Social Security. They might bring home $700 a month. They come in, and then you have people who work they get their money based on tips, so maybe they're a waiter. And then you have the people that work in the steel mill, who work all this overtime, and they literally take home $5,000. And they come in there and they get a $500 loan because they're that overextended that they can't afford to lose it. So it was interesting to see all those different pay stubs. And I think to myself, when I'm giving them a loan, like, why are you in here? I don't get it. And to this day, I don't get it. But people, they try to keep up a lifestyle. They become accustomed to having that type of money all the time. And when you first come in, you have a file. We keep a file on every customer, and their file might be this little. By the time they leave or they go into collection status, their file is like, we have to split it up because they've been coming for years.
What happens to those files on customers?
They stay in the center for, I think, 3 years, and if they've been inactive for 3 years, then we can pitch them. But we have to keep them.
Gotcha.
In case we get audited.
So, what percentage of the customers would you say went in once or twice or only for emergencies? Real emergencies?
Maybe 15 or 20%, if that. A lot of them come in once and it's the emergency. And then, you tell them how much they qualify for, and they say, oh, well, I'll take that. Even though that's way more than they need.
Do you think that's specific to like where you lived and where you worked, or do you think that would be something that would be true regardless of location?
I think that's regardless of location. If you make a certain amount of money a month and you go in there, you only need $100, and I tell you qualify for $350, would you not think about taking that money? Because what else could you do with it? So, but then you think about the payback, it's $400. Now you have to come up with that in 2 weeks.
It seemed like you had like a wide range of incomes coming into this one particular location. And I wonder if that's true for these alternative financial services all over the country, or if it's like in a city, in an urban environment, would the income be that different in comparison to a more rural environment?
No, I think it's the same. And I think it's the same because whatever location the store is in, the people that are locals in that area are going to come to the store. The people that make a whole lot of money and they don't want their coworkers or their colleagues to see them are going to go to that store. And a lot of the times you see people run into each other that they know in the store. Yeah. And then it's like this awkward pause. And then the next person that comes up to you, they're trying to get information like, oh, I didn't know they came in here. And of course, you can't tell them anything because privacy laws, but you sort of smile and nod like, I know who that is. And so do you.
having worked in payday lending, do you have an opinion about whether or not they should exist?
I think after I worked there, I don't think they should exist. I think people just need to be better about managing their money because it literally is very hard to get out of. And not everyone, there's not always an easy way to get out of it. Sometimes the company will offer a payment plan option, or sometimes you can take out the money and only roll over the interest part of it, the fee that you pay to get the money, but that can go. But you're limited to that. In some states you can only do it 5 times and then you're done. In Ohio it's unlimited. In Illinois it's unlimited, and they do other types of loans there. So
I have a question. If you ever used loans, did you use them before you worked there? Did you use the loans before you worked at the?
I did not use loans until after I worked there. And if you work for a company, obviously you can't take a loan out at the same company, so you have to go to a competitor. But there are a lot of people that have worked in those types of places. They know the drill. They know how to get away with all this money.
Are you comfortable sharing what situations you use the loans for?
Sure. If I was short on cash, I think I use them more responsibly because I've worked there. But I would use them if I didn't have enough money for gas, or I didn't want my phone to be turned off, or I wanted to go out and drink on the weekend and I needed $50.
And did you always pay them back in full that first time around then?
Yes, because I know what happens if I don't, and I didn't want to do that.
You mentioned how you think that they shouldn't exist. Do you think that there's something different about these loans in comparison to a more traditional loan, or do you think that these institutions, regardless of the type of loan, are taking advantage of people?
I think regardless, they're taking advantage of people, but short-term loans, there's a higher risk involved, there's a higher interest rate. A traditional loan, you have to jump through more hoops to get it. Short-term cash advances, you need an ID, a job, and a bank statement. That's it. And you can fake all of that. A bank is not going to give you a loan and they know you don't have an account. You know what I mean?
So you would say all of these institutions are really just trying to take advantage of people, and it's the regulations that protect people from institutions.
Yes.
These laws and regulations.
I think it protects the individual and the institution because nobody wants to get screwed. I mean, on either side, you don't want to pay all this money to get a loan. As a company, you don't want to lose your money to somebody who's not going to bring it back.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of people say things like, no traditional bank would give me a loan, even though they're a hardworking individual who could pay it back. They just, because of their credit score, because of the situation they were in, no traditional bank would give them a loan.
Yeah.
And so these alternative banks, financial services like payday loans, provided people who couldn't otherwise get a loan with the means of obtaining cash, and they would pay them back responsibly, and so they saw a benefit to them because of this. For instance, we heard one woman say that she needed to pay for her son's funeral. A traditional bank wouldn't give her a loan. Do you see any benefits to these alternative financial services, or do you just think they're all bad? You would just get rid of them?
I would still get rid of them, but there is some benefit there. A lot of the people that use short-term payday loans, they're not credit-based. It's only based on if you have a social security number. That's it. If you go through a bank, it's credit-based. And a lot of people that have decent to bad credit, they know they're going to pay a higher interest rate. When this place is saying, I will give you this cash, all you got to do is bring it back.
Right.
So I think there's some benefit to it. Obviously, there's a wide range of reasons why people use them, but I think after a while, like I said, it only takes one time. After a while, you don't use it like you should. I don't care who you are. It's hard to give up that kind of money and not need it back, which is how they stay in business.
You did, right?
I do.
So, if you do it responsibly, other people might do it responsibly as well.
I think there's a small percentage of people that do it responsibly. A lot of people use it as a second income because it's that easy.
So on a complete tangent, What is your career field?
I work in life insurance.
Okay. And that was your field beforehand?
No, beforehand I worked for a nonprofit.
Okay. So what made you take this job with a payday lending system?
It was a full-time position that paid a little bit more money. And it was something new and different. And I already had experience from when I was a cashier.
Okay. And did they seek you out or did you seek them out?
I sought them out. I remembered I was coming from my other job, and I walked in one day and she gave me an on-the-spot interview, and then she asked me to come back for a formal interview, and I got it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty easy.
How long did you work there?
I worked there almost 2 years.
Okay. And what made you leave?
The robberies.
Right.
In the
My
area.
apologies.
Couldn't do it anymore, and there was a possibility of me going to another location that had just been robbed, and the person was on a leave of absence. I didn't want to do that. It was in a shady part of town, and I would have been there by myself, and I had already gone to locations before where they had just got robbed. At that point, I was done.
So what kind of location was the store you worked at in?
It was in a strip mall.
Okay.
And there was a security guard that walked past, and he would peek in the windows like every hour because he knew I was there by myself. But not all locations have that. And after the robberies, the company installed buzzer doors and all these other features, and I still didn't feel safe. So I had to leave. So I did.
Did you have any questions from the people asked before the class?
We've conducted some other interviews with other folks and members of our team as well. And in each interview, we're trying to ask each person what question they might ask the next person that we interviewed. So there's some questions that came up from that before. I think it was Julian that wanted to ask. He was talking about somebody that was using a payday loan, but seeing that you have what brought you there?
To use the service?
Yeah.
I needed extra cash. And I needed it. And I couldn't wait till payday. I was sort of the definition of the person that usually comes into those types of stores.
And what do you do now to save money when you're in a bind?
I just don't spend a dime. I don't want to go back to that, like ever, because it's really hard to get out of.
When was the last time you used a payday lending service?
September of last year. Yeah, September. Never again, hopefully.
And then Jayla, like in your interview, you had mentioned a question that had something to do with childhood. I'm sorry, my notes aren't very clear to me what that was. Do you remember?
I think it was like, how do you think that your childhood affected your spending habits?
Yeah, it's kind of an intense question, but if you feel comfortable asking it, do you feel like anything from your childhood influenced how you see money now?
Yes. My parents are not the greatest money management people, and I think I learned the hard way from that. And I think working in that type of environment really, I got a better understanding of how to manage money. And it's really all about discipline. And I think as a child, I didn't really learn that until I started to work on my own and have my own money and live on my own and not have to rely on anybody else but me. It's different when you're playing with your own money. It's different when you're playing with somebody else's money. So yeah, if it's my money, I'm not spending it. But somebody else's, sure.
So what question didn't we ask you that you would recommend we ask?
I would probably ask if you interview another former employee or another person who's used the services, have they ever scammed them? And why?
So like, we would ask the person we're interviewing if they've ever like done a scam on a lender.
Mm-hmm.
Have you?
No. No. I know how to, but it's really risky. It's easy to do. It's so easy to do. And if I was a lesser person, I probably would do it because that's free money. That's free money. And there's so many of them available. You can go to every single one of them. Before
What's
they
the risk?
jail, depending on how much you get. You have to pay restitution. Some of them do get caught. Yeah, and if they find that you're stealing from them, then it goes on your credit. Then they pursue legal action.
So if you knew you wouldn't get caught, would you? You don't have to answer that.
If I knew I wouldn't get
Totally would.
This
caught,
interview's getting deep.
I think it depends on how much money I could get, honestly. And I think it depends on what state I'm in. And in Indiana, you can only get $550. That's not worth me stealing. In Ohio, I think you can get up to $1,000. That's not worth me stealing. In Illinois, you can get all the money you want.
What?
Yeah, they have title loans, and they also have cash advance loans. But there's, you could make $7 an hour, and they'll give you $1,000. It's not really based on your income; it's kind of based on what you need.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So like, are you walking like $2,000?
I know they do.
I don't think they'll give. There's a cap to how much they can land
I think
before.
it's up to $5. I think you max
think
out at
it's-
$5,000.
I want to say it's between $3,000 and $5,000.
That's intense, though.
That's a little bit of change in my pocket. So if I could get away with it, and working at that place as long as I had, I probably could get away with it. But I'm too chicken to go through with it.
Yeah.
We'll call that more.
Yes, I have morals.
So I said you didn't have to answer that question.
I'll answer it. I mean, it's honest, and it's not like
It is.
anybody that is in a bind hasn't thought about, man, I need some cash today, like right now. What am I supposed to do?
Do you think there's like a happy medium between the traditional personal loan where you have to jump through the hoops and then the like all you need is a social security number loan for somebody that needs assistance, that's kind of, I think, one of our goals is to talk about solutions, and we haven't really come up with any.
Yeah. I don't know. Any type of consolidation service is basically filing bankruptcy. That's it. There's no alternative to that. They call it that, but that's what you're doing. Because if you're in that deep with payday loans, it's already on your credit. They've already filed legal action. You have no other option but to do that. Or pay them all this money to get it expunged from your report, which is, you're still losing money. And then in the end, people that end up paying the loans off, they come back because they know it's easy.
So the only way to get out if you're in that deep is in some form to declare bankruptcy.
And at that point, and we do get those, people will come in, for example, people will come in the day before they know they're going to file bankruptcy, take out the max they can get.
Wow.
By the time it's due back, they'll send us papers in the mail like, this person has filed bankruptcy. You can do no collection practices. You have to eat it.
Shady. Well, and I mean,
That's not shady. That's smart.
Super smart. It is
That
so
is
smart.
what I've heard is that is one of the justifications for the
Kingsley
like,
Gravel.
the interest that's one of the justifications for the interest being so high on the loans is that it's such a risk.
It is a risk. It is a risk. And I've only worked in Indiana, so that's where I'm using these examples. But in Indiana, the max you can get is $550, and that's only if you qualify for it. And a lot of people don't qualify for it. That's where you get those steel mill, corporate, white collar people that come in and get that extra change because they don't really need it. If I give you $550, you have to pay back an interest rate of like 391%.
Whoa.
That's the interest rate.
Wow.
And the payback for $550 is $622. So the fee for me giving you that money is $72. So you have to come up with that plus what I gave you. And then I can only give you back what I originally gave you. So you're losing that interest every time you're coming in. And like I said, it only takes one time. You know, it's easy the first time. You don't have to pay anything. They just give it to you. And you're like, ooh, I got all this. I got $550. I only needed $200. But you take out more because it's available. It's like your favorite food. What's your favorite food?
Oh.
Ice cream.
So if I give you
yeah.
a cone of ice cream, but I have this bucket of ice cream over here, you only want this, you only really can need this, but this bucket is right here for you.
Yeah, and I'll eat it, and I'll get a
eat the
stomach
whole
ache.
bucket.
And I'll get a big old stomach ache.
Do you know if the place you worked for was owned by like a Wells Fargo or if it was a smaller place?
No, it was owned by some big wig in Tennessee who sold it because he sold it, I think, last year or the year before I found out because people stopped going because it's bad. And then they sold it to some company in Mexico. I think a lot of those cash advance companies are struggling now because they can't get people to come in and take out a loan. So they have to supplement their income, and now you see, oh, we'll buy your old gold. You know, you have gold teeth. We'll melt them down and give you cash for them.
Whoa.
I know a lot of them, they sell electronics now, TVs and iPads, and they have to supplement that income from somewhere.
Kind of like
So
a pawn
if they
shop.
want to give you a loan, oh, you want to buy this iPad too while you're here? Yeah.
That's appreciated.
But the good thing is, if you're not in there to get a loan, it becomes a pawn shop. So if you need an iPad and you don't want to pay $400 or $500 for it, you can go there and get it for $150, $200. And that's pure income for them.
I guess what I'm getting at is I feel like there's two different types of payday loans, the ones that are owned by the big banks and the ones that are kind of struggling because they're not backed by like Wells Fargo and then have to supplement by becoming like pawn shops because not everybody pays back debt, you know, because they can't.
Yeah, and I think the banks that do cash advances now, it's easier for them because they're just going to drop it into your account that you have with them. So if you don't pay it back, they can see when you get paid, pull it right back out of your account.
But you know what the issue is with that? I hope y'all don't mind me chiming in, but it's like, like when you do that with your bank, and like I had 2 jobs, so when I was using it, and I would get paid from one job today, let's say today, and then I would get paid from my other job next week. I felt like that was not fair because y'all didn't wait 2 weeks. I mean, you know, it's like they get it as soon as the direct deposit comes in. It goes against your direct deposit as opposed to your paycheck.
So if you work 2 jobs, you essentially get paid every week?
Something like that. Yeah.
Or did one job you do get paid every week?
One job was every 2 weeks. One job was once a month.
Okay, and the company knew about both jobs?
I don't know.
Did you give them 2
Well,
check
it was
stubs?
the bank. It was
Okay.
the bank.
The-
So they knew I had 2
The bank can see if you have direct deposit.
Right.
So if they know you technically get paid weekly or bi-weekly, they're gonna take it when they see it.
Right, but it was 2 different organizations. That's why I'm like,
As long as you
it
have
just
enough to
wasn't
cover
fair.
the loan,
Right.
they don't care where the money comes
Exactly.
from.
And I felt like that wasn't fair because it was just like every week I was just like, oh my God. I had this $50 extra, like you said, that you have to pay with whatever you borrow plus the interest.
fee.
So,
And now those companies, they, like I said, they turn into pawn shops. They also do taxes now. Have you guys noticed that? Like payday loan stores do taxes, and when I was working at the one I worked at, they had just started to do taxes, and I was really uncomfortable with that. Another reason why I left, but
Why? What made you uncomfortable?
how would you feel if somebody messed up your taxes?
Like inexperienced.
Somebody inexperienced. I mean, it was through H&R Block. We had to send it to them to do, but if we didn't input the data right, it's wrong. It's an incomplete tax return.
So you felt uncomfortable because you were inexperienced and
I'm
didn't.
not a
Yeah.
tax expert. Yeah.
So what was the benefit? Did you guys split the money between you and H&R Block?
Yeah.
So
like, I think we would charge the customer $75, and we would pay H&R Block $25 per tax return.
A lot of these people that work at H&R Block, they're just like,
They're not
they work,
experts either.
they work there
Uh-huh.
during tax season. And
Yeah.
They're just average Joes.
Yeah.
So,
Like the commercial.
yeah, I mean, I've done people's taxes before.
I mean, it's not
volunteer-wise, and
Yeah,
like,
it's
I know
not
what I'm
hard,
doing.
but if you can follow, column A to column A on the sheet, you can do it. But no.
and then I was looking at the H&R Block commercial this season, this tax season, and one of the commercials, they've been saying that people who work at H&R Block are not seasoned in taxes.
Right.
So on the commercial ships, like I've done thousands of taxes for thousands of people. So I did the math. That's only 1 year, like, of taxes.
Yeah, because
That's like you've only been doing that for a year, even though you can say I've done thousands. I've done
It's legal.
I've done probably-
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I don't know. You don't go somewhere and do something else while you're there. Like if you go to the gas station, don't buy a couch. If you go to the gas station, you get gas. You don't do something else.
Do they tie it to like your refund? Like a lot of car dealerships will say, we'll do your taxes and then you can apply your tax refund to the car purchase.
Yeah, they have
Do they tie like your refund will give you your refund plus a loan type of thing, or?
Yeah. If you do your taxes there, they'll give you they'll take a percentage off of the fee that you would go for the loan. So if you do your taxes there and they say, oh, you're going to get $1,000 refund, you can get this loan. We'll give you $500 more, but you only have to pay back, $50 in fees. So in the end, you're still paying $600 from your $1,000 and only left with $400. So that's how to get you to keep coming back. I mean, it's really all a game of marketing and sort of luring people in.
confusing people.
Yeah, that's the main goal, confusing people. And
Do you train to do that? Like
you don't train to confuse people.
Well, I mean, was there like were supervisors telling you like to sell more, to bring them back, to get people back in the door, or was it kind of like it just naturally happens that way?
No, you're trained to say things in a certain way that will get people to come back.
Do you have like an example of maybe like a supervisor telling you to say this way?
Yeah, okay. For example, once you take out a loan, they give you the contract for it, and it has all the rules of how much you took out, the interest on the loan, when it's due back, and what you owe. You have to, legally, you have to tell them that. But then you might say, like, after you sign the loan, you might say, okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks. Or, once you take out the loan, oh, hey, we got this over here. We'll charge you a fee if you want to put the money on a card. They have those prepaid cards, and I hate those because they charge you like $1 every time you use them. We have to sell those because it's pure income that we don't have anymore, if that makes sense.
Did you feel like you would have been looked highly at, like by a supervisor? Would you be like praised if you sold more, or you got a customer to take out a bigger loan that they didn't need? Did you like feel that kind of pressure from a supervisor ever?
Yeah, you always have to upsell. So if someone says, okay, I'm new here, I only need $50, you have to tell them the max they qualify for. Like, oh, you need 50, but you can get $275 if you need it. Did you want that? The payback is only whatever the payback was. And then you have to convince them to take out more money, because the more you take out, the better the store looks. And there's incentive for us to do that because we got bonuses from it.
Okay, I was gonna ask, like, did you get rewarded for upselling? Because I mean, like, I know where in places I used to work where we would like upsell. Like, I rewarded my employees if they upsold. You know, so
The
did you get rewarded?
manager got a quarterly bonus, and she would split it with me. And I wasn't making a whole lot more money, but I got a $900 bonus.
Was that informal or formal? Like she would split that with you?
Formal.
Formal.
She talked to her boss, and they literally split the bonus on both of our checks. She didn't have to do that, but it was only us two in the store. So yeah, we did get bonuses for that. And
That was nice of her.
yeah. Not everybody's like that,
If
But
you
it also
weren't,
benefited her because like you upsold because you knew that bonus was coming to you.
but true.
You know, so
That's
the better
true.
you do, the better she does.
That's true.
if you weren't to get a bonus, would you have upsold?
If I want to get a bonus,
If you weren't, if you didn't have a bonus coming your way, no commission.
No, because as an employee, there's no incentive to do more.
So in other places, they might not get a bonus, commission, anything like that to upsell.
Some places don't offer that. No.
Okay. Were you ever allowed to discourage someone from taking out more?
Discourage? No, but you know, if you're standing there with a customer and they say, and I offer them the max, well, you can get $500, and they say, really? And I say, yeah, and they're like, oh, well, I only need, you know, what do you think I should get? I can't tell you what I can say. You can get this $500. I can't ever convince someone to take more than what they should,
Or less?
or less than what they should.
Can you think of a scenario where there was a moment where you as like a human being entered the marketing situation and you were like, I really don't want this person to take out more than they need because my heart's getting in the way?
Yeah, a lot. That happened a lot with the older customers because they just didn't have it. Or some people, the other side to that is, you know, people that come in, they want more than what they qualify for, and then they want me to sort of manipulate the system to give them more, and I just couldn't do that either. So that's kind of hard too, to see an older person that really needs more than what I can give them, but there's nothing we can do about it. And once you take one out, once you take the max you can qualify out in the state of Indiana, you can't go anywhere else and get the difference.
Is that a scenario where you would refer them to another state?
No, I would never refer someone else to my competitor.
What if it was your company in Ohio? Like, well, you know, we're not related. You can go to Ohio. And
Yeah, I mean, we can tell them it's out of state. It's a totally different system there. And most of them know that, because where we were at in Indiana is right on the border of Illinois, so they knew they could go across the line and get another loan.
I'm tempted. Like,
Don't do it. I just
4 hours.
So how much, if you don't mind me asking, were you paid hourly or were you a salary non-exempt employee?
hourly.
So how much were you getting paid per hour?
I started at 9 something.
Okay, so did you have any benefits?
Yes.
Okay, so was there, I'm assuming there was no like union, there was no sense of like, was there grievance policy that could be done?
No.
Okay, so would you say that your position was like would you say that you had like a working class job?
Yes.
So would you say, I feel like I'm doing a cross-examination.
These are leading
They
questions.
are leading questions. They're totally leading questions. So would you say that you probably felt just as subjected to that market in the way that your clients felt subjected to the pay demands?
Yes.
So you're both victims of the same system.
Yes. It's hard to watch people struggle. I don't care who you are. It's hard to watch people struggle. And, you know, the length of time I worked there, I remember when some of those people first came in there and I had first met them. And now I know they're married, their kids' names, what they do for a living, how long they've been there. I don't really want to know that much about somebody that I don't have to know it.
Why do you feel like you don't want to know that much about them? Do you think that it makes it harder there were times where you maybe wanted to, you know, with the elderly folks, you maybe wanted to like not have them take out that much, but you couldn't
Yeah.
say otherwise.
Yeah.
So,
There were a lot of times, especially with the older adults, that I didn't want to see them take out that much, or even if I knew they needed more than that, because I know it was such a struggle for them to come and pay it back. And surprisingly, a lot of the older adults paid back their loans on time, no matter the circumstance. They always came back. The younger ones who have low morals did not bring them back at all because they knew how to scam.
What do you think people would do if payday loans didn't exist?
They'd be better at managing their money. What did they do? What did people do before they existed?
Well, I mean, one thing I've heard is that people would go to like the loan shark in the neighborhood and they'd like bust their kneecaps.
I think nowadays, if the government eliminates cash advances, I think people will be fine because people have already learned to not go there. So I think now people are more financially literate than they were before.
So you think a lot of this has to do with financial like smarts?
Yeah.
And do you think that, so what do you think could be one solution? So there's a university that does kind of work in schools, teaching kids about saving and spending, and do you want to donate it? What do you want to do with your money? So do you think that education is one way to kind of prevent some of this? I mean, what do you see as kind of some of the solutions?
I think education is always a way to eliminate anything. If you won't know not to do something unless someone teaches you or shows you how to do it. So I think you just sort of learn the hard way. Everybody has learned how to mismanage money and then how to manage it again. So I don't think it really depends on, I guess, how you grew up, because there are people who grow up in the best households and don't know how to manage money. There are people that grow up with literally less than nothing and they manage every dime. So I think it just depends on the situation you're in. You have to force yourself out of it.
Would you say that everyone who used the service knew the implications of it?
I think people, they knew, but they didn't want to know. They know.
Willful ignorance.
Yeah, willful ignorance. They know the repercussions and what could happen, but at the moment they're thinking, just give me my money. Give me your money, I should say. It really is hard to watch. It happens, it exists, people still need money. If payday loan stores didn't exist, I don't know if people would go to loan sharks. I think people would just go without. Or cut their losses somewhere else. Hopefully.
Have you ever known anyone to get money from someone else in the neighborhood type of thing? Like take a loan from someone in the neighborhood who has money?
I mean, a lot of the times before people come to the payday loan store, they'll ask a relative or someone else they know for money. But there's a greater risk of them chasing you down for it than there is when you come to a store. So I think a lot of people do weigh all their options before they come to the store. At least I hope they would.
Any last comments?
No, just, be better able to manage your money.
Do you have a question you'd like to contribute for folks that have used payday loans? Like I know that you added a question for folks that work for payday loans, but like for the interviews we do with people that use payday loans, does anything come to mind in terms of a question we should add?
I think I might ask someone that uses payday loans frequently or regularly is why do they still do it? Is there not some other way, some other area in their life where they can cut costs? Because there usually is. People just don't want to cut their lifestyle down.
Thank you very much.
Sure.